When Tony said to turn to Philippians 4, he scared me for a moment because, not scared me, but it kind of lines up. Because we're really going to start reading in Philippians 4, verse number 10. You stopped on 9, didn't you? Yeah. And I want to thank the Lord again for giving us a good day today. And the Lord does all things well. I believe my power went off last night for me to go to Eddie's house. I believe I was supposed to sleep in Joshua's bed, and I believe I was supposed to do what I did this morning. And although I didn't get no sleep, I got more than that, really. But in Philippians 4, and then I'm just going to I'm going to not use the wireless mic tonight, Chris. You can record me from here, right? I ain't going to move around now. My knees really hurting me bad. If I decide to sit down, I'll put the mic on. Philippians 4 and verse number 10 says, "But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly, that now at the last your care of me hath flourished again." He's talking to the church at Philippi, which Brother Jesse's been preaching on some good services. This is the end, the last chapter of it. He's in chapter 1 now. "Wherein ye were also careful, but ye lacked opportunity." Now really what I wanted to get to was in verse number 11 and 12 and 13. Paul said, "Not that I speak in respect of want." And this next statement, I think, is one of the hardest statements in the Bible. Matter of fact, I was thinking about this today, Brother Tony. I think I'm going to preach a little series on the hard statements of the Bible to live. Some Bible verses are easy to read and easy to quote and hard to live. This is one of them. Look at verse 11. "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned," Paul said, "in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content." Now, I don't know about you, but I like to whine, complain, grumble. It's just my nature. I still go on and do what I should most of the time, but I do gripe about it some, and I do mumble and grumble, and I do wonder if the Lord hadn't got me mixed up with somebody else, because Eddie told me the other day, well, he loves you a lot because you don't have to have a bunch of burning bushes. Well, I just like to be not loved so much sometimes, have some burning bushes. But I think one of the hardest things to do is to be content. Be content. Because you always want more, and you always want better things, and you always want better for your family and more for your family. And you always want better for the church and the ministry and the kingdom and all that. You always want. Naturally, you want more. You really do. But Paul, and you got to realize something now, when Paul wrote this, Paul had been through a lot that we've never thought about going through. Paul had a life that was not able to be ordered. Paul had to go by the seat of his pants a lot because he was chased around from place to place. He was stoned. No, I don't mean drunk, stoned. He was literally stoned. He was brought before councils. He was attacked and accused of things. His life kind of went as the wind blew it. It had to. He had no other choice. But God used him, and he wrote half of the New Testament. So here he says, I've learned that whatever state I'm in, to be content. And again, that's easily preached. That's easily read. That's easily, Brother Morris, for me to tell you. I'm a pastor, so I counsel people, so I sat in my office so many times, and one guy asked me, maybe more than one, he said, preacher, when you're giving this counsel, do you really do this stuff yourself? And I want to say sometimes I do, sometimes I don't probably. I'm probably my worst counselor. I'm probably my worst comforter. I'm probably harder on me. Some of you think you're hard on me. You don't know what hard is. I'm a lot harder on me than anybody else is. But yet I've learned that God, how many of y'all believe God is in control? I mean, I believe from the dream I had Thursday night, I told you a little bit about, which I'm not getting in the dreams and visions much, but the dream about the church Thursday night and what I went through Friday and Saturday, and then the lights going off and going to Eddie's and doing this and doing that and driving back down 330 and going to the little store at the four-way stop sign there. And I believe it all just kind of just lined up for good things to happen. And I didn't understand a lot of them. I was aggravated last night when the power went off. My leg was hurting. I just laid down on the sofa and took some ibuprofen. I really was just going to relax that evening. And I didn't want to get up and pack my stuff and go somewhere else. But the Lord knew what he was doing, because he always does. And I said this morning in the sermon that the Lord never does what's bad for us. He always does what's good for us. And although we may not understand it when it's being done, and we may not even be as content as we should be, the good thing about it, you know, my dad, I talk about him a lot, my mom and Papa and them, but my dad was from the old school like most of your dads were, and it was not... this is the way it is. It's a my way or the highway. How many of y'all was raised that way? I think most of us, our generation of fathers, it was bam, bam, here it is, suck it up, buttercup. You didn't pick food. You didn't choose nothing. You ate what was put there. You went to where you were told to go. You did what you were told to do. It wasn't like, well, he didn't really care, to be honest with you. But I remember when I was a little boy, more than once, I mean, I'd get the brilliant idea sometime to try to pitch fit. You ever tried to pitch fit with your parents? Anybody ever? I'm the only one that tried. Okay? That didn't work out too good with JT. That matter of fact, he said to me, I remember one time clearly, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Eddie was in Pick and Save, what we used to call that, Pick and Puke. You say, why Pick and Puke? Well, they were one of the original buffets, okay? But you got to know it was, I don't know how much, $2.99 or something like that. And it was, you know, but back then, JT, it was a deal, so we did it. We went in Pick and Save one day, and I little wiffle balls that came out with the plastic balls of bats, you know, and I wanted one of them, and we was walking down the aisle, and he didn't want to take the time to pay for anything. We went in there to eat, and we walked down the aisle, and I saw them things stuck out there. And I said, Dad, I want one of them. And he said, no, we ain't got time, son. Come on. And he took me by the hand and pushed me toward the door. And I went brain dead. I just stomped my feet. That's all I did. I didn't fall down. I didn't scream. I just stomped my feet and said, I want one. It wasn't good for me. He got me in the truck and he said, what I'm going to do, he didn't do nothing then. He got me in the truck and he said, what I'm going to do when we get back to the store is I'm going to give you a reason to stomp your feet. And he hammered me pretty good. But you know, I gave that illustration because there's a lot of times your mom and dad or the leadership in your life did things you didn't like and made decisions you didn't understand. But if they were the right kind of parents, they were doing what's best for you. And that's what the Lord does. He is the perfect Father. He is the perfect parent. He knows everything about you. He knows everything about your circumstances. He knows everything about your tomorrows. He knows everything that's going to happen. And I'm not saying that God does evil things. I don't believe he does. But does he take evil things and tragedies and make them good? He sure does. Yes, sir. Matter of fact, there's a song out, we hadn't had it sang in a long time. I don't even know if Miss Kelly knows it. Y'all remember the song about the brush? Something about he takes things, colors, Kelly, and puts them. I can't remember. Well, I know you're young. I understand that. This is one sang a long time ago. But anybody else remember that song? Tell me a little bit about it. I can't remember. He takes the brush and makes things good, whatever it is. I'll find it. You watch. But he does. I mean, God takes, I've heard this preached before. You love the finished product of a nice cake. But if you ate the individual recipe, some of the stuff, you wouldn't like it too much. But put together and done right. And my wife is a phenomenal cook. Her mom, I told you, we didn't like each other a whole lot somewhat, but her cooking was like off the charts. And my wife will get in there and she'll cook all stinking day, one dish, one sweet thing. And I'll walk in there and there'll be something over here and something over here and something over here. And I'm going, is all that going in this thing? She said, yeah. So she'll put it on. But I wouldn't want to eat that stuff separately, some of it. I don't want to eat raw eggs, be honest with you. I don't really. I got a friend that does because of protein. He pours in his milk and shakes it up and drinks it, He said it's good for you. He's a trainer, so I reckon he knows. Brother Morris, is that right? You think so? Raw eggs? I thought you so. Brother Morris said, yeah, raw eggs. So, but I ain't going to do that, be honest with you. I just drink a protein shake or something. I'm not eating raw eggs. I like them almost raw, but I like them cooked a little bit. But you take all the ingredients separately, and they're not too special, but you put them together, and they make like a beautiful cake or some casserole or something. Well, that's what the Lord does with our lives. He takes all the things that are out there that don't look so good individually, and He puts them all together, and He bakes them and puts them right together. And before you know it, something that looked mighty bad can be mighty good. Okay, and all of a sudden, what looked so negative, what looked so bad, and what looked so... I heard a football coach the other day, they asked him, and they had lost a tough game. And he said, he's won a couple championships. And they asked him something, I forgot the question, but he said, well, we had to learn how to lose first before we learned how to win. And then he said this, it was actually harder to motivate my guys after they won than when they lost. Bill Belichick, I don't like him. We call him Bill Belichick for Patriots. 3 or 4, that's what my Don, I didn't call him Don Shula, call him out, Bill Belichick. They lost last night too, yes. Amen. Yes, amen. Can I get a witness there? Yeah. But they won a Super Bowl, and what he had done, the players didn't know while they were on the football field. He had a guy go in the locker room. He thought they were going to win. They were playing good. And in case they did, he told a guy to have these banners ready. So when they walked in, they were celebrating and high-fiving and jumping around, and they're shooting champagne everywhere, and all this going on. And they walked in the locker room, and you know what the whole banners around the room said? I'm serious. You're not near as good as you think you are now. And it said it all around the room. They said all 4 walls. It said, you're not near as good as you think you are now. That ain't celebrating. But he wanted to win another one. And sometime when things are going so right, sometime when things are lining up and success is hitting you and it's all going fine, it's just setting in motion and you're just riding along the wave and yes, this is good, this is wonderful. That's hard sometimes not to need the Lord as much, huh? As when your back's to the wall and you're battling depression or something and something it's not going right. You need Him then, and you know it. See, the reason those guys at the Potter, the reason I love to preach to them is because they're so hungry. See, they're sitting there because of their bad choices. They're sitting there because of their bad decisions, and they know it. See, they've been exposed. The whole world knows they messed up. The whole world knows they're in a mess. The whole world knows they need help. Sometimes I think that's the worst thing that does happen to us. I think we need to know we need help. We need the Lord. We need things straightened out. We need Him every day of our life to do anything that we do. So Paul says here, he said, I just found whatever state I'm in, I'm content. And you're talking, you say, oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's Apostle Paul. Oh, really? Why don't you check what he went through before he wrote this? I don't mean before he wrote any book, before he wrote Philippians. Why don't you check what he had been through prior to that? He had already been through 2/3. Matthew Henry said he had been through 2/3 of his trials and tribulations. He was 2/3 of the way. He had done been stoned. He had done been brought to court illegally. He had done been run out of a number of cities. And he said, whatever state I'm in, I'm content. I heard Ed Maccabee preach years ago say a sermon I love called Saints in Caesar's Household. I never pay attention to that passage. At the end of the book, it says, I salute the saints in Caesar's household. Caesar was the Roman emperor. You remember that? A godless man. A brutal pagan is what he was. But Paul said there were saints in his household. Huh? How'd Paul know? I'll be honest with you. I think he probably led him to Christ. One man said, could you imagine the sentence of being chained and put with Apostle Paul for 8 hours at a time? Huh? Because everyone that they hooked him up to, I guarantee you somewhere he said, now, you know, I was on my way to Damascus one day, and these guards couldn't get away. They had to listen 8 hours. They were attached to him. They were handcuffed to him, basically. So the Apostle Paul said, I just found whatever state I'm in to be content. He said, now look at verse 12. I know both how to be abased, that means to be brought low. That means to be taken to low, hard, bad places. He said, I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Oh, well, I know how to be successful. I know how to be on the bottom of the totem pole. Everywhere and in all things, I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. Was it Brother Hiles, Eddie? I think it was Brother Hiles, I believe, preached a message, and I'll try to find it back in maybe the 80s, about great men of God who had been through suffering tragedies. And every great man he studied, used by God, had been through some tragedies and some suffering and some heartaches. The people that had smooth sailing, they were good people, but they didn't do many great things. The guys that did most of the stuff, most of the time, were guys that suffered, and women that suffered, and women and men that had to overcome pain, had to overcome trial and affliction, because they had to have God. And then he closes out with a famous verse that we all can quote real easy. He closes this thought out with, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. All things. I told you that I spoke this morning, and I had a few minutes. I mean, I'm not bragging on me, but I hang around afterwards. Most preachers don't. They said it all. They come in, leave. I just hang around a few minutes, talk to them, shake hands with them. One guy, he was a young guy, young curly-headed guy, probably in his 20s. He came up to me and he hugged my neck and he shook my hand. Here's what he said. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Listen to what he said to me. I was a spoiled brat that was allowed to run around and do what I wanted to, as I wanted to. And it was the worst thing that happened to me. And I made bad decisions and bad choices because I was never told no, and I was never disciplined like I should have been. He said this. And I got to playing around and doing what I wanted to, he said, and before you know it, I was stripped before the world. And I have nothing. I come from, he said this now, a pretty affluent family that could buy my way through a lot of things. But I told them I didn't want them to buy me through this. And he's not been there 2 months. He's been there 9 months now. That means you've gone through the whole program almost. And he said, but I'm going to stay 3 more months because it's good for me. And he said, and he quoted this, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. His name was James. I remember that. He said, please pray for me, because my parents want me to come home, and I don't need to go home. I need to stay here and finish what God's doing in me. I said, James, I'll pray for you. I will. I can do all things through Christ. All things. Whatever it is you need, you can do it, and God can do it in you. Because it ain't you anyway. Look at the verse. I can do all things through who? Who does what? He strengthens me. So it's not about you doing it anyway. See, and again, I think, and I'm just being honest, I think people that haven't had a lot of failures and had a lot of I just think they get spoiled somewhat. They don't understand what it feels like to fail. They don't understand what it feels like to fall flat at your face. But when the Lord picks you up and puts it back together and uses you for great things and to do things, man, it's amazing when he does that. I can do all things through Christ. And I believe you can stay pure, clean, and do right. I'm 64 years old, 65 in 24 days. I have never, ever took an illegal drug, street drug of any kind. I have never smoked a joint. I have never took an illegal pill. I have never drank alcohol, never been in a bar. And to be honest with you, I don't think I missed a lot. I don't sit there and go, I wish I'd have done that. I really don't. The Lord can help you do whatever you need to do. If you've been in those places, the Lord can help get you out of them and change you and strengthen you. If you've never been to them, He can keep you out of them. How many of y'all believe that? He can keep you out of them and use you and keep you clean. And that's what we want for our children and our grandchildren. We want them to live lives that are not perfect, but that are good and wholesome. We want the Lord to bless them and use them and not know this pain, some of it. Now, they'll know pain because, again, you have to, I'm telling you, you're going to have to suffer. And you're going to have to go through painful things. It helps you grow, okay? It helps you know God is there with you. But you can avoid a lot by right decisions. How many of y'all believe that? You can avoid a lot by making right decisions, and the Lord can help you out of them if you made wrong ones, help you stay away from them if you hadn't made the wrong ones. He can help either side. I believe that. Amen? So that's the thought for the night. Just whatever state I'm in, I'm content, Paul said. Then he said, I know how to be abased. I know how to be low. I know how to be high. And he did. He knew how to be stoned to death, almost basically. And he knew how to stand in front of people and have great power on him. He knew the heights of where God can take you and the lows of where the world can take you. But Christ took care of him in all of it. And that's why he could say, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Amen? Got a good day today? Let's get your J dollars out if you